Dr. Martin Luther King's speech at the Washington Monument, when he did call America to task, asking America to live up to its creed, to fulfill its promissory note that it had made to the people so long ago and had yet to fulfill, when he called America to task, there were people in this country that began to listen. There were seeds planted and changes began. But it's been a long struggle, and I want to remind all of you who are immigrants, and I want to remind all of you who are children of immigrants, that the struggles that preceded this immigrant generation were immense struggles. They were struggles of people that gave up their lives. People like Medgar Evers, who was shot in the back by a white supremacist. A cowardly act indeed. People like Rosa Parks, great sacrifices. People that were chased by dogs, vicious dogs. People that were watered down with fire hoses, chanting, "We shall overcome." Not too long ago, I heard that song, and it was a song that I learned as a little child because I marched with my mother when I was about 5 years old. I was marching in the civil rights marches with my mother, and I remember that song, "We shall overcome." I do believe deep in my heart one day we shall overcome. This was a dream in the hearts of people in this country that things could change. And those people struggled. They were people that lost their jobs. They were people that gave what money they had. They were people that pooled their resources, that drove to Selma in Mississippi, drove down in cars to march with Dr. King, people that sacrificed. This is the legacy that we are inheriting. And the American Muslim community, I think, is a new chapter in the challenge of calling America to task. I believe that we are a historic community and that we can help America, become the ideal America that the founding fathers talked about when they put in the preamble of the Constitution in order to form a more perfect union, acknowledging that the perfection was far from there, but this was the desire of these people to form a more perfect union. And so I believe that it's the challenge of the American Muslim community to call American people to task. It's the challenge of us as a community to remind the people of this country, you have to live up to the creeds that make this country a country that has some of the highest principles in human political history. The creed that all men are created equal. We have to call Americans to account. This is a creed that Americans say that they believe and live by. All men are created equal. We have to call Americans to account. This is a country that declares liberty and justice for all. Liberty and justice for all. Not liberty and justice for the people of the Beltway. Not liberty and justice for George Bush and the people in power. Not liberty and justice for all the banks that are being bailed out with American taxpayer dollars. Not liberty and justice for the American people alone, but liberty and justice for all. Liberty and justice for all. Reflect on that meaning for all. We want liberty and justice for the people of Palestine. We want liberty and justice for the people of Kashmir. We want liberty and justice for the people of Georgia. The people of Georgia who have a right to self-determination. We want people of Georgia right now who are suffering the egregious and barbaric attacks of a country that knows it has no right being in Georgia. But George Bush sounds deeply hollow when he condemns the acts of the Russians against the Georgians when we have our own problem in Iraq. And by the way, if the people in America don't know it, Iraq is Arabic for Vietnam. Iraq is Arabic for Vietnam. It's a mistake. It has to be changed. This is what we have to call this country to task. We have to remind this country, and we have to be courageous in raising our voices, because we have every right to raise our voice. We are people of this country. We are Americans. We are people of the United United States of America. We have to remind these people that this is a country that declares as a motto, e pluribus unum, out of many one, out of many people, one nation, out of many creeds, one people, out of many states, a United States. This is a creed that America says is a motto, e pluribus unum, out of many one. Thomas Jefferson said that he wanted a country where the Jew, the infidel, the Mohammedan, and the Hindu would have rights in this country to worship as they see fit. This is what America was about from the very inception, but it has yet to realize its own ideals. It has yet to realize its own ideals, and so we're calling this country to task. But as American Muslims, we also have to call our fellow Muslims to task, because we too are a community that is not living up to its ideals. We too are a community that is not fulfilling its highest principles. We're a people that believe in the verse, وَقُولِ لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا, speak good to people, speak beautifully to people. Are we speaking beautifully to people? Are we speaking beautifully to people? Are we talking about our fellow Jews, our fellow Christians, our fellow citizens of this country in the best way? We can criticize. There's nothing wrong with criticism when it's constructive, but if we denigrate and demonize, then we are not following the book of God. This is not the book of God. So we have to call the Muslims to task. We have to recognize that we live in a country that has a just wage law, and yet I know of no Muslim country that has a just wage law. There are Muslim countries in which people are in bondage, are in next to servitude that is nothing less than slavery. This is happening in Muslim countries today, and there's much. You can see all of the research that has been done in this area. So we have to call the Muslims to task. We have to ask the Muslims, are they living up to the creed? لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you truly believes until you want for your fellow man what you want for yourself. Are we living up to that creed? Do we want death and destruction on people that we perceive as our enemies? The American people are not the enemies of Islam. The American administration currently has gross injustices in the Muslim world, and we condemn them with all of our heart, just as many Americans who marched in the cold, who marched in rain and sleet and snow to say not in our name. We have to condemn those acts of the American administration, but also recognize that those acts are not necessarily representative of the American people. There are many good people in this country that are losing sleep over the people that are dying in places like Afghanistan, in places like Iraq. So we have to recognize that the American people and the American administration are two different things. Now that brings me to an important point. I personally believe that it is extremely important that Islam does not become democratic or Republican or libertarian or independent. Islam transcends political parties. Islam is not the party of Republicans. Islam is not the religion of Republicans. It's not the religion of Democrats. It's not the religion of independents or any other political group. It is the religion of God in our belief. And it is the religion that was offered as a gift to humanity. Republicans are welcome to it. Democrats are welcome to it. Barack Obama is welcome to it. So is Mr. McCain. And so is Sarah Palin, if I got her name right. They're all welcome to it. And if they don't want it, that's fine too. Because we can live together. It's a big world. There's lots of room for everybody. Paradise is a big place. It's bigger than the heavens and the earth. There's plenty of room in paradise. I want everybody to get in there personally. I want everybody to get in there. I don't want a paradise like a private palace that I preserve for myself. I want to see everybody in there. We have Muslims that think paradise is like a convention center. You block it up for yourself and no other group can come. We have Muslims that believe that. This group or that group, they have their convention center and they can't wait till the day of judgment to watch themselves go in and everybody else says, for members only. For members only. That's not paradise in my understanding. So we have to recognize Islam cannot be a party religion. Muslims voted, many of the Muslims voted for the Republicans 8 years ago. And then were shocked by what happened. Welcome to American politics. Welcome to American politics. Some of you are learning. It takes a little time. We're on a learning curve. Politicians always make promises. That's why they're politicians. The ground of politics is compromise. The ground of religion is principle. We don't compromise religious principles. Politicians will always compromise. The ground of religion is principle. Religion is there to speak truth to power. It's to remind politicians you are public servants. And I want to remind all of you, get out and vote. There should be a mass vote of Muslims. I am totally against war. I am against war in all of its modern manifestations because all I see is human suffering when I see war. And therefore, I want the end to war. I feel deeply sorry for the Afghan people. Over 30 years of horrific warfare. But I also have great sympathy for these young Americans that are being sent into harm's way for no real just reason. And I want to see them brought home. I want to see these American troops brought home. Many of these young men and women that are serving are fine and decent people, and they join the American military in order to further their educations, in order to learn a trade, in order to learn an honest livelihood, but they have been put in harm's way. The other very important thing is that Guantanamo Bay needs to be shut down. I said this last year, but I reiterate it. Guantanamo Bay is a sin against the history of this country. Torture, there is no room in the American creed of human dignity for torture. There is no room. We condemn torture. Islam condemns torture. 1400 years ago, our prophet said, the people that have the greatest chastisement on the day of judgment and in hell are the people who tortured people in this world. That is our prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We do not accept torture.